This is the Becoming Muslim podcast at untoislam.com, the show that helps people convert to Islam with hosts from the US, UK, and Australia.
From that point, I learned from friends around me. It sort of clicked. It just made sense. It wasn't like I went and I read the Quran or anything like that. It just, right at that moment where I was at in that space of time, it made sense to me. It first starts with a thought, God is one. So these are the little thoughts that I started out with. Our religion is so vast and there's so much to learn. And it's been a journey coming from that thought, that simple thought. It was through friends that I became Muslim. I was young at the time. I think I was searching for something different, something new. I think the idea of living a clean life, it's in that simplicity. It was very simple. It wasn't very complicated for me. And then just like the fact that Islam teaches you how to pray. I didn't know how to pray before. Take your time, learn. If you want to convert to Islam, find a group who is helping Muslims. Find support. Find your tribe. Find a tribe of like-minded people who are going through the same thing or know what you're going through. Don't think too much about it. Just, go for it. Our soul is calling out to something greater than what we are. As human beings are only capable of so much, and we ourselves are only capable of so much. There's a point where we have to surrender to something greater than us.
Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. Welcome back to On to Islam. Today we have the privilege of speaking with Amy Ali. She is a 37-year-old who converted in 2003. She resides in the United States and is a certified Back to the Fitra Academy mentor and coach, helping women live in their now with God. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. So before we delve into what you're doing now, we want to kind of go back into your past and learn what brought you here. So in your childhood, what religious teachings were there?
We were just like a typical Christian family. Most like religious things we would do would, go to Easter, church, or like Christmas church, and we weren't very consistent with our religion, or we weren't really devout or anything, I would say, but it was there, more of like a side note, I would say.
So mainly on the holidays is what you're
saying? On the holidays. There was a sort of a phase, and when I became a teenager, I felt like, my parents wanted me to go to church more because they felt like this was gonna help me, but I didn't really feel like I, at that point, connected to anything, and I questioned a lot of the things that I would hear, and I didn't really realize, I wasn't really believing in anything at that moment, but there was a lot of questioning going on.
Okay, and so was it Catholicism or was it more like Protestant beliefs?
They were born again Christians.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then what kind of spurred you from quitting going to church?
I think there was some turmoil, just sort of me lacking with, there's some turmoil within me, not knowing, just sort of doing whatever, living whatever life. And it was not really, consistency with anything. I don't think I really knew how to pray or, um, and or anything like that. So I feel like at that moment in that time when when Islam found me, and when God opened up, my soul to the understanding of Islam, I at that moment in my life, I didn't believe in anything, and yeah.
Okay, so when did you first hear about Islam and from who?
So where I grew up was a really rural area. It was like, not a lot of people. It was very like isolated. So really there was no Islam there. There was no, Muslims, but through a friend of mine, um, her mom, she was Italian, and she traveled to Afghanistan and she married an Afghan. And she, that's so my friend, she had that mixture in her. So but she didn't grow up Muslim either. So, but she told me about Islam, and had, she had a Quran and a prayer rug. And, so I started from that point. I learned from friends around me and about Islam, and it sort of clicked. It just sort of made sense. It wasn't like I went and I read the Quran or anything like that. It just, right at that moment where I was at in that space of time, it made sense to me. Like I think the oneness of God was that thought of the oneness of God, and that the prophets are not attributed to God.
Mm-hmm. So did you share these thoughts with your family? Was it something that you did on your own, or?
It was, I feel like it was my own journey that I started to take on. I had very little knowledge, obviously. So it's like at that point, you're just like really, you want to share it with everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
you want to try to tell people about it. And um, that I think that's where the struggle sort of came in, because it's like that was not a message that they were ready to hear, they wanted to hear, in that sense that I was trying to bring it. So yeah, it's like you learn something and you want to share it with the world, but the world's not, it depends on the ear, but the world's not ready to hear it.
So you tried to share it with your mother, for example, or your
Yeah.
father?
So
Or?
yeah, so I tried to share with my mom, my dad, my sister, and my brother.
Mm.
And yeah.
And what was their general reaction to you getting curious about Islam, or you trying
Uh,
to tell them?
yeah, we had a lot of ups and downs from the beginning. I mean, they sort of understood, like, I don't want to eat certain things or drink certain things, but they had a hard time understanding like my choice, and their view of it was like, there's this radical part of it, that what aspect am I joining. They had their own fears and their own worries about what I was getting into, which is valid, if now that I look at it.
What kind of fears did they have?
So like the fears that they had were, am I that this, religion is isolated, and the way that the women are treated, and they there's very little knowledge from their part. They didn't know, besides the things that they're hearing in the media. So based on that, just like a one-sided, they didn't know anyone either who was Muslim. So I think for them, viewing me and going into a new religion is like, how can you leave your traditions? How can you leave all of this behind and take on something new? It was hard for them to receive at some points.
Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily because they were hyper religious. It was just because of misinformation, maybe, that they heard about Islam.
Yeah, yeah, I would say it's the, view that the worldly view that they had of Islam, coming from media sources or unknown, the unknown, there's a lot of unknowns there. So the unknown is definitely going to be there, because there's no gap in between what the what is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you studied it on your own for the most part?
Yeah, I think so. I went through, ups and downs and trying to put on hijab, and I started studying on my own, and I was, going to school on, and I think where I started to really, because it first starts with a thought, God is one, and then there's no attribute to God. So these are the little thoughts that I started out with. Our religion is so vast and there's so much to learn, and it's been a journey coming from that thought, that simple thought, to where I am right now. And I feel like I slowly was watching videos like Zakir Naik and the Peace TV. So a lot of the scholars on there, Yusuf Estes, and listening to even now, like, I'll watch Zaki with my kids, and I'm learning stuff from that. I'm learning surahs with my kids. It's like I feel like it's a non-stop journey. And yeah, so
MashaAllah. So when was your actual point of conversion, though? Was there something, maybe a Quranic verse or an event that led you to take the Shahada?
honestly, it was it was through friends that I became Muslim. And I was young at the time. I think I was searching for something different, something new. I think the idea of living a clean life, and being honest, and um like just knowing, I think the truth about it, the just like having something that was true, solidly true in my life, was something that I was searching for, unknowingly. I mean, now that I look at it, that's there. You want, when you're at that age, when you're 19 or 18 or 20, you're searching for, what's gonna spark your soul. And for me, without even knowing, Allah sent that and opened my heart to the oneness of God, the Tawheed, and the it's in that simplicity. It was very simple. It wasn't very complicated for me. And then just learn, just like the fact that Islam teaches you how to pray. I didn't know how to pray before. I didn't know how to ask from something
Mm-hmm.
that I can't see,
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, that's really was powerful. Um,
So did your life change drastically after you took your Shahada?
I think there was a lot of lessons that I needed to learn along the way. So it felt like a bumpy road on and off. I never lost sight of, even in those moments of, my tests or my trials, I never felt like I lost sight of not wanting to be a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I always held on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Even in those moments, like when, I didn't know how to pray, or wasn't consistent in my prayers, or I still held on to, that is my belief. I believe in this and this is true to me. And so sticking it out and staying with it and being focused on it, that right now today, I think the tests and the trials, that come to me now, obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't burden a soul beyond what it can bear. So for me, I can see that through the consistency. Like right now, the tests and the trials that I'm going through, I don't think I could have bore those at the beginning of my Islam. Now I can see that I'm capable and my capacity is more, and can step into them with the resilience.
Mm-hmm. Is there a favorite surah or hadith or ayah that really speaks to you, or something that you go back to when perhaps you're having trouble?
Yeah, one thing that I really hold on dearly to is the morning adhkar. If I get that in, I just feel like my day opens up to me and I can face my day with certainty. The verse in the Quran, verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. This really hits me, especially understanding that, we are feeling our thoughts in the moment. So even though you can be facing something so emotional within you, you can find comfort and ease in that, because Allah is the facilitator of your heart. He's going to facilitate, and help you through and give you the emotions and the grounding that you need and the reminders that you need. He's constantly sending reminders to you. It's just you opening up to receive them.
Mm-hmm. And so when you did finally revert, did you tell your family? And if so, when you told them, what was their reaction?
I was very open with them from the beginning. And that's why I was saying, like, I was very, like, okay, I'm going to tell them. And I realized, that's not really the right way of doing it. I should have been a little bit more kind to myself and given myself more time and space to sort of grasp the concepts that I was sharing. And I think all sort of reverts sort of go through that phase. Like, they just want to share and they want to, maybe tell everybody. Some maybe they keep it to themselves, but there's a point where you just want to share, and then you realize, oh, the people may not receive it that way, but that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. So you still have a good relationship with your mother and your father and all of that?
Yeah, like I've been up and down, but right now in my life, we have a wonderful relationship. We don't talk about religion or anything. If I need to set a limit or something, hardly ever do. But I have a wonderful relationship with my parents. They, alhamdulillah, now I do. And they view and see me as, whole and complete in my life. And they, I share my struggles every now and then because I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we talk about, I talk about their good day, and I talk about my good day. And we're good. We visit each other and we see each other. We just spent, Thanksgiving with them. So, alhamdulillah. So yeah, we are connected, and I want my kids to be a part of their lives and to be connected to them. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. So what advice would you have for someone who's thinking about converting to Islam?
Yeah, just for somebody who's converting to Islam, take your time, learn, if you want to convert to Islam, find a group who is helping Muslims, find support, find your tribe, find a tribe of like-minded people who are going through the same thing or know what you're going through. That way you don't get stuck in the, the culturalisms or the other isms that are out there that can, make you feel like you have lost yourself. There's been periods of times where I felt like I've lost myself in those isms. And just find that information that touches yourself, and it's more simple than it is complicated. Islam is not very complicated, and Islam is in that phase that you are now. Whatever phase you are, if you read one surah, or like one verse, then that is your now. That is where you are right now. Then you take those baby steps to becoming, who you want to become. And if you're not sure about who you want to become as a Muslim, or what a Muslim is, the attributes of Allah, who Allah is, and then surrounding the community, the tribe, to support you along the way is very, very important, very crucial to keep your grounding.
Is there an example that you can think of where, maybe one of these isms caused you some confusion? Is there a good example you can give us?
Yeah. So, feeling the need to, I think, for me personally, I came into, I'm in a marriage where we are, it's the first generation Muslims. So you can find yourself falling into, you want to please Allah, and you want to please the people around you. But at the same time, it can become like where you're sort of living in an expectation of somebody else's expectation of you. So, I'm trying to give I'm sorry, I'm like trying to give a good example. An example of that would be not falling into the expectations of other people. Could be like, the time that you stay up, or it could be how often you're visiting somebody. It's good to visit people, but you can have it in a moderation, or what phase of life you're in. Like right now, I'm in the phase I have kids and stuff like that. So, you can still please Allah and visit people and keep your timings that are suitable for you. I hope that's an example. So that's just something that, yeah.
Yeah, because you were talking about first generation. I assume they're from, where are they from? Your in-law?
India.
Okay. So I heard a hint of maybe there was some kind of cultural practice that maybe you had run into that, they felt was Islam, but perhaps it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you might, they might, their isms can be, like, what I'm talking about is the thought of somebody else having an expectation. We can fall into other people's expectation because we might want to please them because we don't want to hurt people's feelings, and not knowingly being a revert, not, coming in from an outsider perspective, you could just, you know, subtly fall into something that's not suiting you, and then you could feel resentful for it. Or you could feel like all of a sudden overnight, like, oh, this is a little too much culture for me, and now I have to go back. Where do I fit in? And just finding yourself where you fit in, coming back to you and your understanding of Islam, and then not gently going through your experiences and your balancing both lifestyles together as a whole, as complete. Instead of, and not being imbalanced with it is what I'm trying to say. Not letting it overcome you, but keeping your grounding in who you are at the same time. It's very important to know who you are and know what your grounding is and what your limitations are.
In terms of Islam,
in terms of Islam, and in terms as what makes you fulfilled, because what makes you fulfilled in life can be Islam, can be your gratitude, and it can keep you grounded. And you want to stay in this grounding, in this middle zone area, and you want to stay grounded in who you are and be in that gratitude and still grow at the same time, and not allow the expectations of others sort of keep you back, because it could sort of rock the boat a little bit. And that's natural, right? That's natural in any family relationship.
Of course.
So what I'm saying as a revert, or as a new Muslim, or a Muslim who has gone into a multicultural relationship, is to be grounded with who you are, know who you are and what your capacity is, and then you can gently and kindly navigate and show up in the sight of Allah, pleasing to Him.
Inshallah. So that sounds a bit like what you're doing now with the mentoring and coaching. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that came about when so I know very well how it is to not really know myself and be in a place of doubt, and feel like there's despair, and you not really see the hope or the other side, and wanting to run away from it all, want to get away, how did I get to this place, like what happened, like what, I don't recognize myself, who am I, this is some questions that I really did fall into this place. And what happened from there is dua. I just made dua to Allah, like, help me find a way to make this easy for me. You want ease, and not to make me patient necessarily, but how can you make this easy for me? What knowledge am I lacking? And this is the questions I found myself sort of asking myself, and that's how I met Sister Catherine Jones, and some other mentors of mine, and I got into like the peaceful parenting, or parenting by connection, peaceful parenting, the inside out paradigm. And when you realize like your human experience is actually very simple, and it's just going back to your innate fitra, your innate self, your pure self, like when you were born, you're never broken. We weren't broken ever. We were purely, like if you look at a baby, they're just naturally funny. They're naturally happy. They're naturally, they have their ups and downs, but they're just pure love. And, you asked earlier about one of the things that I do is, Al Wadud, one of the du'as that I've made continuously for the past few years now is, Ya Allah, you are Wadud. Make me the Wadud that I want to receive from the people around me. And it's just about stepping into myself, feeling whole with myself again, and complete even in those dark moments of mine.
Mm-hmm. And so
So
now you're offering these mentoring and coaching services to others?
yeah, so now I'm starting to learning where our thoughts and how our thoughts affect us, and we're living our feelings from our thinking in the moment, and we really we're creating, our experiences through the thought and the thoughts that we hold on to, the stories that we put on them. And when we recognize them as thought bubbles, little thought bubbles that we can pop at any time, we don't have to hold on to any of those stereotypes that we've put on ourselves, the limitations that we put on ourselves. We free ourselves, and we are open to receiving the pure guidance, the fitra state that I'm talking about, to come back to our creator. And this is what we teach in through from the Back to the Fitra mentoring, where I got my certification from. And I started just recently, I started a Facebook page, Soulful Muslimah support group, and I'm working on supporting Muslims, and mostly like relationship, so I can support women to feel whole again.
Okay, so who in specific should be seeking out your help?
So any woman like who, and it's like really any relationship, if reverts especially, because I know what it's like to have that balance of who am I, and then balancing reverts who have come into multicultural relationships or marital relationships, child, any relationship really, I can work with, because I've had that experience with my parents, or various people in my lives, and just being your whole authentic awesome self with those people in your lives, and coming back to that pleasing Allah.
MashaAllah. Are there any parting words of advice you have for anyone who's newly converted or maybe is on the edge thinking about converting?
Don't think too much about it. Just, go for it. Our soul is calling out to something greater than what we are. Our capacity is only so much. We are only, we have limitations, but God's love and God's mercy and God's attributes are endless, and they're vast, and they, can, as human beings are only capable of so much, and we ourselves are only capable of so much. There's a point where we have to surrender to something greater than us. And just take that step. If that's what's true in your heart, just listen. Take that time to really listen. Take all the distractions away, all the thinking away, the logical thinking. Take it away, put it aside, put it in a box or put it in a boat. Let it take, put it somewhere, and just allow yourself to sit with what's inside of you. and what you're craving, what your soul's craving, what you're yearning for. And you'll have your answer on your own.
Inshallah. What beautiful and wise words we have from Amy. So there is this idea that Islam is Deen al-Fitra. This is what we're born with. And I think Amy is speaking to this truth. Inshallah, you'll listen to that truth and become a Muslim. Until next time, this has been Unto Islam Alaikum. Peace and blessings to you all.